interested in is this idea of movement as a vocabulary. When we think about vocabulary, it's very intellectual.
Yeah.
It's verbal, but you don't really think about it from a movement perspective. So what is movement vocabulary?
I think of movement vocabulary as moving in as many ways as possible, not just talking about moving, because the larger our vocabulary, the more resilient we are of mind and body. So I use the example often as a detour. You know, if you're used to getting from point A to point B, and there's only one way to do it, when there's a blockage in that road, you're not gonna go where you wanna go. You're gonna have to wait at point A until that blockage is cleared to get to point B. Building a robust vocabulary is basically building detours into your mind and body, into your brain. So you have options. So I can go this way, I can go that way, I can go backwards. I can choose not to go anywhere. But that's truly what makes us more resilient of mind and body, gives us agency and choice, and overall actually supports our mental health.
What does it look like for someone to not have a robust movement vocabulary? What does that actually look like? And then what does it look like for someone to have a robust movement vocabulary?
Physically, that looks like someone maybe that engages in a lot of different movement choices, different movement practices. That could be exercise, that could be how they're getting to work or how they're standing at their desk, right?
Right.
I think for me, the really powerful part of that is the ability to think more and to think differently. So when we're able to move more, whether that's standing up, sitting down, crossing one leg, crossing the other leg, if we don't do that, what it ends up looking like is stuck. We have a society of people that feel very stuck in the choices. They feel like they don't have options. So especially with my clients, if that's the case, we start exploring what choices do we have in our movement? How can we start building more variability, more variety into our movement? Because inevitably we will have and we will see more choice in day to day. So, I mean, right, like this is the ultimate variability. And so even just teaching yourself to shift, to go back and forth, change your levels. Even we've talked about like the characteristics of your movement, how fast, how slow, how tight, how free. Learning the spectrum of movement and allowing your body to fluctuate between them, ultimately the mind follows.
How would you suggest to people in their day-to-day life how they would go about building on that vocabulary? Is it simply through finding ways to get more movement in and more variety in? And how can they actually do that?
Ironically, more often than not, I actually will invite people into the movements they're already doing, which may be very limiting, you know, or we might notice over time, wow, I was only moving in such small ways, quite literally keeping myself small. So starting with the awareness of how we are currently moving in our space, in our world, in our relationships to ourselves, that can provide a lot of insight before we even go into, well, how can we move beyond this? So it could just be one session, depending on how accustomed and conditioned our body is. It could be several sessions. It could be years until we're able to feel safe enough to expand from what has become the status quo. I think the issue is sometimes we're like, oh, I have to add more. You know, I have to teach myself more ways of moving, and I like to take the pressure off. I'm like, let's just understand how we're already moving. And if you see whatever limits you're placing on your body and your mind, you'll naturally want to move more. You know, like kind of, I feel like we were exploring with the board, like the first time I kind of stood here and I was like, but once you feel safe enough, then you can start, you know, playing and being more creative. People are so afraid to embrace their movement.
Right.
We forget how.
As you expand this vocabulary, as we're talking about it, you feel a sense of safety, a sense of confidence. What is really the impact of this on people's day-to-day? If they have a robust movement vocabulary, if they're more aware, how does that actually show up in how how they experience life?
I always use the word resourced. It just, you feel like you have more resources. And the things that bother you, it's not that they're not going to bother you anymore. You have more ability to let those strong emotions move through you. So along with the detour metaphor, the other metaphor I love to use is a house. If you have this house, but you only stay confined to your closet, you're not utilizing the rest of the space. And we do that with our bodies and therefore our minds. So maybe I'm only utilizing this kitchen area and everything just is right in my chest. This is where that elephant sits. This is where all the stress lingers. It might be my shoulders. A lot of us get it in our backs. But the minute I start to recognize that I am more than those parts, and I invite people to connect to the ground with their feet or put their hands together, hug themselves, suddenly the square footage increases. And now they're moving from their kitchen into their dining room, into their living room. Maybe they go outside and sit on the patio for a little bit, right? Metaphorically speaking.
Right.
We have more capacity. We have more space to take up. You have to do that internally before you're willing to do it. Not just externally, but emotionally.
So it really affects everything then.
Yeah, I mean, your relationship to movement impacts every other relationship that you have. So I've seen people actually connect with people, right? Find a mate, a partner, socialize more. Sometimes they socialize less because maybe they were putting themselves out in really unhealthy ways, and now they're actually referencing themselves more, right? Taking more private time. They can have advancements in careers. They can change careers altogether, give themselves permission to raise their family, or yeah, it's like suddenly you see the world of opportunity in a very different way than just at the whim of how you've been conditioned to move.